to reasonably identify all speakers. So, if the chair calls on you by name, then everybody knows who you are when you respond. But if you want to interject and make a motion or second a motion, just make sure you identify yourself. So the first motion we're looking for is that the proposed agenda constitutes essential business and that meeting of this body and the meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 pandemic.
All right. Thank you, Alex. And may I get a motion for approval for the statement which Alex has made for our meeting today?
I so move. Oh, this is Brenda. Sorry.
Thank you, Brenda.
This is Angela Crane Jones, and I second.
Thank you both. All in favor? Priscilla Norman.
Brenda
Aye.
Becker. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We will get the December 15th, 2020 meeting started. The meeting will take place on WebEx. Click the link below. You should have the link. If you would like to join the phone, please call 415-655-0002. When prompted for the meeting access code, enter 146-692-2257, followed by the pound. And when prompted, press the pound to indicate when you are in attendance. If the link does not work, please go to nashville.webex.com and enter 146-692-2257 in the join meeting text box and hit enter. Fill in the information on the right-hand side, enter the event password, which is Metro, and then click join now. If you would like to make a public comment, please use the comment line during the event, and that number is 629-255-1963. As far as any announcement as information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Market Board today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the board's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact your own independent legal counsel. For public comments, individuals requesting to address the board will be limited to 3 minutes unless granted more time by the board chair. Each person authorized to speak is expected to state his or her name and the address and the organization represented, if any. And if the speaker reads from prepared text, please provide a copy to the board staff. Do we have any public comments at this time?
Charles, do we have anybody calling into the line?
No, ma'am.
Maria, do we have anybody on hold on the line? No. Kevin, do we have anybody dialed in as an attendee other than board members? Okay, we have one merchant on the line. That is Galena Garlic.
Okay, thank you.
But they are not in the public comment queue. They're just participating in the meeting.
For the meeting, great. Thank you, Tasha. We will move forward with the approval of the September 23rd, 2020 regular board meeting minutes. May I get a motion for approval, please?
This is Brenda Becker. I so move.
This is Angela Crane Jones. I second.
And all in agreement. I, Priscilla Norman.
I, Brenda Becker.
I, Angela Crane Jones.
Thank you. We will continue to move forward with the financial overview, Tasha.
Thank you, Priscilla. I'm going to defer to Maria for the first part of this overview.
All right, so if you go ahead and open that NFM November overview. So I'm going to do a quick summary of our November financials and I'll make a couple statements about our year-to-date, where we're at year-to-date and some projections, and then talk a little bit about merchant balances. So in November, we brought in a little bit over 102,000, with about 80,000 from the market house and 22,000 from the farm shed. Year to date, we're at 542,000 in revenue. As you can see, there's also just a snapshot of the past due rent of $106,215. If you take a look at some of our bigger object accounts and kind of where the majority of our expenses go, you'll see that salary continues to trend below budget. Security continues to trend right on budget. Janitorial is still over budget. Janitorial and refuse are still over budget, and utilities are trending under budget. Overall, our all other expenses are also very low as we're keeping pretty tight control over expenses year to date. Overall in that section, another thing to note would be that we are roughly at 563,000 in expenses for the year. So this is the first month that I presented that our expenses have now exceeded our revenue. But as you can see from the market house past due rent, that if we didn't have that large past due rent, we would actually be our revenue would actually be exceeding our expenses at this time. As far as continuing COVID-19 and tornado expenses, we had a few transactions hit those accounts this month. But the tornado project is, as I explained in the previous meeting, the majority of the tornado project is wrapped up. We will have a large amount of COVID-19 expenses in December as that funding wraps up at the end of this month. And overall, as far as our fund balances, there's also not a lot of transactions happening within our fund balance. And as I will reference later, our special fund, which is Fund 4460, is currently at $701,000. As far as some year-to-date trends I'm seeing, we did have a meeting, a mid-year budget meeting this past Friday. So Tasha and I put together a lot of projections for the rest of the fiscal year as well as the next fiscal year. At the current revenue levels, we're projecting to make a little under $1.3 million this year. For reference, we brought in a little bit over $1 million last year. So due to past due rent collection as well as increases in overall participation and collections, we'll see a little bit of a jump this year. And right now, based on that revenue, we're projecting to use between $700,000 to $630,000 of our fund balance. So as you can see, we plan to use the majority of our fund balance this year, which will put us in a position to ask for supplemental in FY22. Based on the conversation in our mid-year budget meeting and comments from our performance manager, they made no indication of that we would easily be getting a supplemental. They made no indication that they are interested in providing a supplemental, which will require further conversation on how we can move forward working within our revenues, working within our current revenues. Just to wrap up a little bit about the market house balances as well, we have seen an increase in market house balances. There are merchants, or in the past due balance. one of the reasons I think that we might not have received some of the December rent revenue is due to the grant that is open. I would say right now we have $44,000 in uncollected December rent. So like I said before, if we had that $44,000, we would actually be ahead of our expenses right now. But we have $106,000 total, and about half the merchants have some type of past due rent, whether it's their December rent payment that is now considered past due or past due prior to December. At this time, does anyone have any questions about merchant accounts, our November numbers, or any of our FY21 projections?
Just one question. As far as with the payment arrangements that were made previously, how do you feel that went for the merchants?
Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of communication from certain merchants. There's some merchants I've created 3 different payment plans for from the beginning of March, and not once did they follow the payment that I calculated for them. There's a few merchants that often just continue to pay their rent and not any additional. And then there's some merchants that have a very irregular payment pattern, and they're kind of ranging in payments, and when those payments are.
Okay. And have there been any communication with them as far as, maybe I know, of course, with COVID, how things are, but further communication about that, how they plan to do that, or if it's even possible, or were they waiting on the CARES Fund? Do you have any of that information?
There's been monthly communications. I've given monthly statements to remind them where their balance is at. I've often asked for communication and not received much of anything. There's not a lot of communication on necessarily why or a timeline on when it's hard for certain merchants to determine a timeline on when they could pay off that balance, but overall there's very minimal communication, and we don't really have a great indication of what's going on in their business.
Okay. Because with,
I would add that that's not for a lack of effort. Between the monthly statements that Maria sends out, as well as the in-person follow-ups that she and I both do, and calls to these merchants, we've offered to have one-on-one sessions with them to learn more about what's going on with their business. Of those substantially past due accounts, only one of those merchants has recently scheduled a one-on-one meeting with us to talk about their inability to pay that past due balance by the end of this month. And, as a reminder, when we last convened, when this board last convened, you all agreed to offer an extension to any merchant that was past due to be paid in full on their past due balance and be current in good standing by the end of this month.
Right.
And so we have been doing everything that we can to help them understand where their balance is and offer them payment options. But I believe what Maria is trying to indicate to the board is that while the board has generously allowed an extended time period and the staff has offered multiple payment options to them and counseling sessions, we haven't seen a response that indicates their interest in paying down their past due by the end of this month. And I use the word interest because there's no communication coming from the majority of them at all about this. And so that is concerning to our team while we are offering options and we're implementing the board's preference on deferring and extending their payment terms. We're not getting back the kind of information that we feel is required to continue to ask for extended periods of grace.
Okay. Thank you for that. For that.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Let me add something really quick. So, obviously, when you look at this overview, you can see that some people just, some merchants only owe December, and I do think that's in part to the grant, and they might be wanting to use that for December.
Correct.
Anyone in excess of that, I've only had 2 merchants really indicate that they don't think that they would meet the timeline of December. Everyone else has kind of made it seem like it was possible, and we did have one merchant who started off in March with a significant amount of past due debt that did complete payment this month. So I just wanted to throw some positivity in there.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that update. I just, want to check and make sure that, that they know that the communication lines are open, and in order for us to really be of assistance, we have to know. And we just want them to understand that the communication lines are open. And thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, Tasha, you can, if there's anything else regarding the overview and the lease step increases and fee waivers.
Okay. So as we've communicated previously to the board in email, we do have several of our multi-year leases that are due to incur a step increase this month and in the spring of 21. And we had intended to have this conversation with you all prior to this, but we all know that we haven't been able to convene since our September meeting. So where we are at is we're going to, kind of give an overview of the impact that should the board defer these step increases, what that impact would have on our budget. And then we're asking for you to have a conversation about and make a decision about whether or not you want us to follow the terms as outlined in the lease agreements requiring the step increases that would be incurred starting the month of December and continue through the spring, or if you want to defer those to a specific date in the future. So essentially roll those step increases forward. So Maria, can you give the overview of what that deferral impact would be?
So the step increase itself would add about up to $80,000 in additional revenue to our organization. And while that seems like a small amount, based on that mid-year budget meeting I mentioned, and in general, our goals for the organization, I'm very hesitant to waive any rent that will contribute to our revenue. I mean, if we move forward and can only subside on our current revenues, every dollar is going to count, and every dollar will be tighter than ever. We had to do scenarios mid-year on similar situations if we did not get that supplemental next year. And as you can see, we ended up, our expenses were around $2 million last year, and currently, if we're only projected to bring in $1.3 million, that's a $700,000 gap that any dollar that can be contributed toward that gap is going to be absolutely necessary. So if that ends up being the case, I mean, we're going to be very tight. The budget will be extremely tight. I mean, that $80,000 is going to have to kind of come out of somewhere. And we don't have a lot of wiggle room within our budget. And I mean, pretty much any additional revenue that we can get will end up going to those things that are the extra services that we offer for our merchant, like marketing and additional team members. I mean, right now, if that's our current projected revenues for next year, I mean, that's the difference in adding a team member to our team. And we've really, I mean, right now we can really only function as 4 team members at the current staff. So once again, just continuing to limit our capabilities as our revenue stays stagnant.
How much of that projected increase in, this is Brenda Butkus speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
How much of that projected increase, the step increase in income in rentals, would come in on these businesses that aren't up to date so far? In other words, even if you increase the rent, you're not really getting anything if they're not paying what they can pay, or if they're not paying the current rent. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, Brenda, I understand.
So projecting an 80,000 increase, it would only be an 80,000 increase in your income if everybody can actually pay it. But if that is projected across the board, and you have however many who can't pay their current rent, then you're really talking about less than $80,000.
So the $80,000 projection for the step increase is based off of the market house tenant leases. Each one of them has a graduated step in them for their either 3 or 5 year terms. Mm-hmm. And so they're either moving from the base of $15 a square foot to $17 a square foot, or they're moving from $17 a square foot to a 5% increase. It depends upon what year they are in their term. Mm-hmm. And so of those, we do have 2 market house businesses that have identified that they're not able to complete their payments by the end of this month. And then we have others that are past due for the month of December. And then we have a handful of others that are past due just basically over the March period, since March. They might have a small accrual of past dues that they haven't been able to pay off. These step increases are not significant based on their monthly increase. And I don't know if you have it handy, if you want to give kind of like a scenario of...
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously we have a range of rent and square footage amounts. So, I mean, they range from like $100 to $500, depending on the space. I mean, I guess in my opinion, you don't really want to count out any revenue. I mean, at least this is the potential to get additional revenue. I guess you don't want to move forward thinking you're not going to get your rent, because I think that's an extreme. That's a problem that we're assuming that we're not going to get the rent, because I think at this point they're making choices, and they haven't had any repercussions for not paying their rent. So it's really hard to. It's going to be really hard to collect those funds if we kind of let it keep going the way it's going.
And I want to share, we empathize with these businesses, and we understand the difficult situation that they're in. We understand that there have been very limited opportunities for some of these businesses, particularly the newer ones, to be able to receive any kind of CARES Act funding. That's why we fought so hard to get the rent relief funding that we've made available to our tenants. And we've also worked with them to try to help them secure PPP and CARES Act funding on multiple occasions. I know Angela's group has worked with them as well. And I think where we're at is we're at a really difficult crossroads. We're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic that has devastated the hospitality industry. And we recognize that. And we have, as a board and as a staff, done everything we can to try to help them get support and resources to respond to that impact. At the same time, as a metro government entity, we are in a difficult cash position to where we are hearing very clearly from the administration staff that serves as liaisons to our department that the administration is not in favor of supplementing social enterprise funds, including the Nashville Farmers Market. And so as we provide recommendations to the board, we're doing so with great fiscal concern that should we act in a manner that may be best for our merchants, we may be jeopardizing the sustainability and the future services of the Nashville Farmers Market. And so I know it's a difficult position to be in. We're in it every day, and I know that you all understand that. But we do require at this time, in order to move forward, we do need the board to discuss and determine what you feel is best for our organization. Do you feel it is best to defer these step increases to a future date, and which date is that? Or do you feel it is best for us to proceed and deal with the one-to-one impact with the merchant community? You know, that's unfortunately where we are at. And, you know, I've thought through the outlook of what this looks like. You know, candidly, it doesn't feel good to have to increase rent, but at the same time, this is a long-term plan that we've had to put the market on a path for financial self-sufficiency. And it's definitely been impacted by COVID. We all know that. So, you know, I think at this time, we're happy to answer any questions about the impact, brainstorm ideas with you. But, you know, we definitely do need the board to discuss it and make a decision so that we can implement that decision.
And for reference, the majority of the increases are effective in March. There are two that are effective this month in December, but the majority are in March of 2021.
March of 2021, okay. Angela or Brenda, do you have anything you would like to add regarding the decision of whether to increase it or to push it back for a later date? What date also were you all looking at, Tasha? Was it just if we change it from December, or is it something you were asking us just to pick the date itself?
Priscilla, this is Tasha. We're deferring to the board on that decision.
Okay.
If you choose a future date, that's up to you all.
Okay. All right.
This is Brenda again. You know, it's a very tough position. I am reassured a bit by the fact that most of the increases would come in March. You know, right now we're kind of at peak COVID. We hope. And I totally understand what, at least I think I do, what Tasha's saying. And it is also a little bit discouraging that these businesses have not kind of opened their books and said, look, here's where I am, this is what I'm making, if I can, scrape by until when, they haven't, at least it doesn't seem like they're doing that to work with you. So, I don't know. I hate to raise rents, but maybe that's what we need to do. What do you think, Angela? You're more tuned in to the real business.
I know it's not a popular opinion. I hate to raise rent because if they're not currently paying, they're not going to be able to pay the additional. So,
Right.
but do we defer to the rent increases to March or April? But that's also it got to be. But we need to have some type of contingency, in place if they haven't been paying any rent, and in December, January, February, like what are the action steps?
Right. Angela, they did say that because these are structural and built into the contracts, and they're not just an across the board increase. Most of them wouldn't take place until March anyway, even without even if we decide to go ahead. So that's at what point do you say your business is failing and tough, but go fail? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
And there's only maybe 2 that it will occur in December. Could you tell us if those 2 are currently current?
Right.
Well, one is and one isn't.
Okay.
And for example, one of them is I would call mid-sized business at the Nashville Farmers Market, and their increase is around $200.
Okay.
A month.
Well, honestly, it sounds like we need to, I hate to sort of say this, but it sounds like we need to go ahead with the scheduled rent increases. And since it's only going to affect a couple immediately, and I think that's where we are.
The one that's behind Maria, this is Angela.
Yes.
The current client that's behind, how far is they're behind? How many weeks, months?
Pretty much they've been paying 1 month behind. So for example, this month, pretty much their pattern the last couple months, like last month they paid for October. This month they'll probably pay for November. So they're technically one full rent payment behind.
So they're sort of keeping up, sort of almost.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so they're trying. And so for me, I know it's not a popular opinion, but do we defer until, March, the step increase?
That would affect a few. So I think, 2, that would affect 2. And we would just end up processing that rent increase in March with the rest.
Well, maybe that's what we should do is just say these increases are mostly scheduled for March anyway, so why don't we make these 2 in March also?
That's the motion I'd like to put forward, is that we just do the increases in March.
So Tasha, can you share with us since it's just 2 right now that would be affected for December, with the increase, the dollar amount or the difference that would be, or what are your thoughts on that?
That would have a minimal impact for us, but that might be a big impact for them.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a minimal impact on us to defer until March. It is a significant impact to those two businesses positively. It's a positive impact to those two businesses. But I do think that if this is the intent of the board, there needs to be a communication to the board following this meeting about what that looks like and what expectations are. And that would be in relation to anyone that is presently past due, beyond the extended time period, and then anyone who's impacted by the step increase. And that's assuming that you move forward with a deferral on a step increase.
This is Angela. Just to be clear, so there are no other, just so we don't have to revisit this next month, are there any expected in January and February? I'm just seeking clarification.
No, ma'am. We have two that should be taking place this month. And then we have the balance of them begin in March.
Okay.
And then there's a few in April.
Yeah.
But those are the main 2 months for the renewal, for the kind of where their contracts renewed.
Well,
So-
and this might be a little bit cynical, but does it make us sound good to say, we are, just to put it out there, that rent increases that were due in December are being postponed to March? I mean, that it's sort of good. I don't know. I'm just saying it sounds good at minimal cost.
Yeah, I mean, this is the most difficult time of the year, COVID or not, so
Right.
I'm sure it's appreciated.
Right.
Yes, I think that's the communication, is that we're deferring, all rent increases, step increases into, March. And then, to be quite honest, we should have a much clearer picture, for those businesses, what the next steps need to be. If they can't make the rent, in January and, February, then what are the next steps we need to take? Like how far are we going to allow someone to go in debt before
Right.
we have to make a decision? Because it's definitely been a tough year for everybody, myself included, as an organization. But we have to be prudent as well.
Yes, we do. And without the communication from the merchant to give us further information, or to see how, we can best assist them in whatever way that we can, that's not helping us either. So we have to have that communication. It's so important to help us make the decisions that we need to make going forward as well.
So this is Angela. I have another question. This is probably directed at Maria and Tasha, or Alex, because I don't know the legal ramifications. But in order to continue allowing individuals to, for lack of a better word, not pay their rent on time, can we not ask to see their financials? You know what I'm saying? Because it's difficult to make a decision without looking at the whole picture. Is the sales just not there, or where's the funding going?
Yes, that's the question that's been lurking in the back of my mind. Why can't we actually look at their books?
Right, because otherwise, I think it's some conditions that need to be put in place. And this is Angela again. One, that they have to communicate every month. They're not going to be able to, pay the rent, and not pay the rent, whether it's going to be late or whatever it is. I'm going to be 5 days later. I'm not going to be 2 days late, and they submit their, their financials each month, so we can help Maria and Tasha can track better and make some, decisions to be able to report back up to us.
I agree with you, Angela. It's Maria. I mean, I agree with you. Unfortunately, there's just been a lot of communication, and I am not seeing any pattern like that. And I've asked for, dates, deadlines. Can you let me know what payment you can make before the next board meeting so I can communicate to them? If you don't think you'll be able to resolve all your past due debt by the end of December, please reach out by December 5th.
Mhm.
So, it's just, I mean, unfortunately, I don't think we should have to chase people down in person to get responses at this point. And a lot of people have only reached out in the last 2 weeks. And my concern is that if we keep extending this past due deadline, that's what's going to happen. They're going to wait until the next deadline. I mean, we will have to discuss that as well, since we have decided that we would allow past due rent to continue till the end of December, and yes, the pending grant funds may hit their account. And how would you, I mean, I know we still need to make a decision on the step increases, but I mean, you will have to determine how you guys would like to move forward with the past due rent if it is not completed by the end of December.
Mhm.
There are only a few merchants that will have a small balance in excess of those grant funds. If you take a look at those past due balances, those would be any balances that are over $10,000.
Okay, this is Angela again. I just want to make sure we're not talking about two different things. So I was representing the steep increases earlier. So is that,
So we
do
can
we
go
need
ahead
to make a motion? That's why I just want to make sure
let's go ahead and make a motion for deferral of the step increases to March of 2021, and then we can go forward to discuss the others. So may I get a motion for the step increases for deferral until March of 2021?
This is Angela Crane Jones, and I so move.
Brenda Bucker here, I second.
And all in favor would be I, Priscilla Norman.
I, Angela Crane Jones.
I, Brenda Bucker.
Thank you very much. And so we can go ahead and discuss further about the outstanding balances that, if they're not paid by the end of this month. And with you not having communication, Maria, with no one communicating back to you, I think it's up for us to decide how we're going to proceed with that. What are the options that we would have, Alex? Do you know?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Alex Dickerson. So the only options you have are what's under the lease right now. So, but obviously, if someone is in violation of a term of a lease, they could be evicted according to the lease. So if you're looking to get more information from delinquent tenants, what I would recommend is perhaps the board could vote to have direct the staff to negotiate with them as to disclosing more information. So they could then do an amendment to the lease essentially that says that, look, we're willing to do this, you provide us this information. Now, of course, remember that you're going to have to, that may put the board in a position where you're having to determine who does and doesn't get this based on what their financials are. And I'm not sure what kind of accounting expertise the board would want to have to take on for that. But just to be clear, right now, you have a limited amount of options because the lease says this, but you have motivated tenants because they don't want to be evicted. So there might be some options to renegotiate some parts.
Thank you, Alex.
So in terms of our ability to negotiate with them based on their lease, any business that fails to pay their rent on time by the 5th of the month is considered to be in default, which is why we were asking the board previously to consider the extension of the past due payment terms. And so we were able to have a motion by the board and implement your intent. But without any further direction from the board at this point, if they are sitting on a past due balance after the month of December, they will then be in default. And what we need to determine is, do we want to proceed with defaulting and terminating that merchant, or do we want to proceed with the board asking the staff to develop a new plan for that merchant, whatever that new plan might be. That's where we're at. And we do feel confident that the majority of the past due accounts that you see in the report that Maria sent you, if they're under $10,000, they'll be covered in full. Their past due will be covered in full by the grant. If they're above $10,000, they will maintain a past due balance. And Maria, how many of those are there?
There are 3, and 2 of them have indicated that they don't believe that they will be able to pay by the end of December. Obviously, the other one is just right over 10. I believe he'll be able to make the payment. They will.
And so we're looking at 2 merchants likely going into default at the end of this month. And should the board want to continue to provide them options, I believe it's in our best interest to have a financial analysis done by a third party, which I believe we can find a partner in the community to assist these businesses with doing that. And then that financial analysis report be provided to the Nashville Farmers Market staff and board to be able to determine at the January meeting the viability of continuing their lease at the market.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my recommendation.
I think I like that, and it involves really just two businesses.
Mm-hmm.
This is Maria. I guess my only final comment would be that they are also the only 2 merchants that have had, like, they've been increasing their past due over time. So instead of the other majority of merchants who have been able to decrease their past rent, these two merchants, their past due rent has increased over time.
There are early indications that their business is struggling maybe more than some of the other businesses are struggling, or that maybe it is the impact of their ability to get other support. There could be a variety of factors here for these 2 businesses, but I do believe we have an effective action so that the merchant community understands the importance of maintaining responsibility for their rent owed in a timely fashion. The longer we defer rent, the worse financial position we can be in. And I echo comments that were made by several board members about, at what point do we allow someone to accrue a balance that it's not feasible for them to pay off. And, while they might not be, apologize for the candid comment, they may not be looking at their financial situation like that. They may be looking at it as, this is a government entity and they're going to let me push as long as I can push. There does get to a point with some of these balances, with the impact of COVID on the hospitality industry, I don't see a way out for at least one of them, unless something significant from a funding perspective becomes available to them. So I would not feel comfortable as the director of this organization moving forward without a requirement of a financial analysis by a third party.
I'm fine with that, and I am the point that these 2 businesses have increasing balances. is, I mean, they just plain might be failed businesses, and maybe it's kinder to let them fail early rather than late. That's fairly blunt, but, anyway.
Okay. Angela, did you have anything you wanted to add before I make the motion?
I don't have anything. I agree with Tasha that it should be some type of financial analysis. My only quick question to Maria is the one that is increasing their debt to the farmers market. How many months are they behind currently? Just roughly. Is it 2 months, 5 months?
They're a little bit over 3 months behind.
Yeah, see, that's my concern with even doing a financial analysis. They're 3 months behind.
Both of them are. And I think I was going to make that comment as well, that there's a lot of intangible, or not intangible, but I don't know. I think the financial statements would tell you some information, but I mean, there's also, to be honest, there's a limitation. I mean, there's a lot of the merchants are taking advantage of less operating hours. So if you're operating, a third of the time that you were previously, and you have your business open a third of the time as you did previously, I mean, I don't see how that would lead to an increase in financials over the same period last year. I mean, it's just not possible.
Right.
And that's the reality. There's definitely less operating hours, and it's just, that might be a strategy, but I don't know if it's one that is working.
Right, for their business. And now, it's a lot of other things outside just the financials. Are they marketing, to firm, and do they have a website that's e-commerce where people may not come in and buy their product?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear. I mean, there's no secret that there's less customers. I mean, so, I mean, that's not something that is, not everyone knows there's less customers. So it's kind of just, what are you doing in the time that you have with your business open? Or are you trying to go after dinner business? They have the opportunity. We're not, but many are choosing not to go after later business. And it's kind of like, I mean, you just gotta, right now, you kind of have to do everything you can to take advantage of your lease, to put it in one way.
Okay. Thank you both.
So just to kind of recap, we're concerned about specifically 2 merchants that we believe will continue to be in arrears, potentially 3, but 2 for sure, that have indicated that they will not be able to pay off their past due with the combination of their financial resources and the grant provided through the CARES Act that we're going to talk about next, that's being administered through Pathway Lending. So we would be looking for a motion from the board on proceeding with those past due accounts. And I would ask that you not limit it to those 2 accounts in case there are accounts that fall into this same category in a future month. So we would be looking for a motion that would allow us the flexibility to work with them, whether they're past due in December or fall into this in, let's say, February.
What about just saying going forward, that would cover any month?
I think you could make a motion that covers a period of between, December, between now and, you could just pick into the fiscal year if you wanted to. And that way we have that plan in place, that action plan, that when a merchant falls 30 days behind, this is the action that is taken.
Okay.
And then we can revisit that going into the new fiscal year based on where we're at with COVID and the health of the businesses at the market.
So is it just, I agree with everything Tasha just said. I just want to make sure, is there going to be a time frame? Like they have to submit the financials within 15 days? Like what?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there
I'm
needs
looking
to
for
be a time.
triggers.
I feel like there needs to be a timeline to, I mean, and I assume that we would want to see, you know, progress on these accounts and not just have a continual,
Right.
you know,
Correct. Yeah.
continue like accumulation of rent.
You know, it could be that they're put on,
A 2-month probation or something.
a 60-day program where, you know, within the first 15 days, they have to have their assessment done. Before the completion of 30 days, they have to have agreement of a payment plan, and then they have to maintain the payments to that payment plan for the duration of their extended term, you know, and that, if they're not able to do that within that 60-day period or 90-day period, then we take next steps to default their business and issue a termination for convenience.
Okay.
I think that's a good remediation strategy with these businesses. It's ample grace. It's in line with our mission as incubating small businesses. It's very empathetic with the situations that they're in, and it connects them with resources that they may not know how to get.
Correct.
Yeah, I like that idea. I agree
Yes.
with that. So so we need to make a motion, which is
Yes. And I think I have most of this written down. Tasha, just, you know, catch me if I miss something, okay? So I have as the motion would be to proceed with any accounts that are past due in December through the end of the fiscal year. And we would revisit those again in the new fiscal year. Within 15 days, they would have to have a third-party financial overview and turn that into the staff and the board. And within 30 days, have a plan for payment, and then to maintain that payment during the duration of the extended terms. Did I miss anything? Anyone, just to make sure?
I think the only thing we need you to close the loop on is what is that extended term? Is it 60 days or 90-day plan?
Or is it till the end of the fiscal
Or
year?
is it till the end of the fiscal year?
No.
I don't think it need to be that long. I think if we've done it this far, my recommendation would just be within the 60 days at the most. Anyone else want to add?
I agree, because we've already been working with them for months.
Yes.
And now we're just trying to take some actionable steps, see how we can assist as an organization. And again, it'll be really up to them, you know, in the sense of, I agree. I don't want to.
Okay. Right.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Do I need to repeat all of that, Tasha, or can we just leave it at that to get the motion?
Just for clarity,
Okay.
for minutes, let's repeat it and make sure that we include that they will default if their account remains in a past due status after 60 days.
Okay. Let me start where I was. Okay. We will proceed with any account that is past due for the month of December through the end of the fiscal year. So is that the one where that one's totally different than the one after the financial period? That's a question first.
So
Right,
I think
Tasha?
that the first part of your motion is giving us the ability to work with accounts in this manner through
The fiscal year.
June 30th of 2020.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure that those were two different things. So, okay, I'll go right ahead. So the motion is to proceed with the any past due payments in December through the end of the year. And we would
The fiscal
revisit
year?
those.
Oh.
Yes, the fiscal year. Yes, thank you, Brenda.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. And then we will also revisit the plan again at the new fiscal year. After that, within the 15th, by the 15th, they will have to have a third-party financial overview, which they will turn in to the staff and the board. After that, they would have 30 days for the plan, payment plan, and then for the duration of 60 days is the max. After the 60 days, the account would default.
Tasha and Priscilla, this is Angela. Can I just,
Yes.
just for clarifying purposes, everything sounds good except for the 15 days. Are we saying that they need to submit their financials to the third party? We know saying within the 15 days?
Yes, their financials within the 15 days.
Okay, and then they'll get an assessment that will be submitted to the farmers. Okay, everything sounds good. I just want to make sure we're being realistic. Okay, perfect.
Yes. So may I get a motion?
This is Brenda. I so move. I'm not
And this
sure
is
we can do.
and this is Angela Granger. I second.
Okay, all in favor, I, Priscilla Norman.
I, Brenda Becca.
I, Angela Crane Jones.
All right, Tasha, do you have any fee waivers?
No, we do not. This was really the part of the agenda where we were going to talk about whether or not we were going to defer or waive anything, but there are no fee waivers to report at this time.
Okay, well then we can move forward to the CARES Act grants update.
Okay, I'm going to be quiet for a minute and let Heather tell you kind of where we're at on our food voucher program, and then she's also going to talk about supply chain after we talk about the other stuff.
Hi, this is Heather. So with the voucher program, we just passed the $60,000 mark. We have about 2 weeks left in the program. So in about 2.5 months, we've gotten $60,000 back to our farmers and food artisans, which is really exciting. And then for the supply chain enhancement, we have 3 out of 4 purchase orders approved for ordering on the value add kitchen space. In those POs, we were able to secure nearly all of the equipment we wanted for the project and even began ordering some small wares like mixing bowls and sheet pans. Tasha and I will be meeting with TDA and the health department to get the recommendations and requirements for the space so we can have it built out by the end of March, which is a stipulation of the grant. Does anyone have any questions?
Not at this time, Heather, thank you.
Heather has done a great job with, these are 2 different grants, both funded through the CARES Act. We have up to $100,000 for the food voucher program. She has consulted with Second Harvest on alternative plans should those vouchers not be redeemed in full. But at this time, Second Harvest is in a position where they've actually distributed $35,000 in overages of vouchers to make up for a low redemption rate, which is very common with couponing and vouchers. We see that with our Freshbooks token program as well. We send a lot out, we don't get the same amount back. At this time, we have not been approved by Second Harvest to alter that voucher program or the distribution. of any other kind of food relief program. So should the redemption remain unused up to $100,000, whatever is unused will revert back to Metro at the end of this month, unless Congress passes an extension on the use of CARES Act funding that would have an impact on anyone utilizing CARES funds, and that doesn't look likely. So, we might pick up another couple $1,000s in redemptions. I don't think we'll see 70, 75. I think that 75 is a stretch. But overall, first time we've ever done that program, it's provided us an opportunity to get some data to take it out to other funders and potentially launch an ongoing voucher program or partnership with folks that want to help the community in this way. So I really want to thank you, Heather, for all your work you've done there. The supply chain enhancement project that she was referring to is wrapped up in the Tennessee Department of Agriculture grant. We've been approved for up to $250,000. We've referenced this in prior meetings. That's a two-part grant that is based off of business disruption funding as well as supply chain enhancement funding. So we are providing backup information to TDA this week regarding both of the projects, and it is based on a reimbursement model for the grant. And so Maria has had to put together a budget for that. We've had to create new BUs for that, and we're following all the necessary procurement guidelines to procure the equipment that was funded through the grant prior to the CARES Act deadline. It has been a challenge. We are not the only department that is trying to expend grant funds at Metro, and the procurement of this equipment has definitely been a significant hurdle to get through. Like Heather mentioned, we do have one item that exceeds our delegated authority, and we have asked procurement, the director of procurement, to review that procurement request and push it forward in a manner that allows us to get it done by the deadline, and we're still awaiting her response. And so that concludes that grant update. The big grant update that we want to advise you on is the rent relief grant update. As you all know, we were approved for up to $500,000 of CARES Act funding through the Metro COVID Financial Oversight Committee that then sent the legislation, recommended legislation to Metro Council for approval. We went through a very tedious process to get those funds. We were awarded $500,000. Those funds have been transferred to Pathway Lending. And on the 4th of December, we launched the application. We hosted a merchant call. We put together a presentation deck. We had Pathway Lending on the call. They have been providing tech support and application support as well. The application deadline was Friday at 5 p.m., December 11th. We evaluated every day how many applications had been completed, how many were pending, and how many needed what is called remediation. So they completed their application, but maybe they did not upload their documents correctly, or we just needed some follow-up information because of the way they answered questions in their application. We are working through all of the remediations. Maria and I are. Right now, we've had 4 accounts that require remediation. 2 of them have been resolved, and 2 of them are still pending a response from the merchant. But to date, we have approved any merchant that has been verified by Pathway and been verified by the Nashville Farmers Market and that funding balance of approved funds is sitting right around $200,000. It's a little less than that, but I think once we get through today, it'll hit 200,000. We did opt to keep the application open through 5 p.m. yesterday for anybody who was still pending in the system. We provided various follow-ups to our merchant community. If they had a pending application, they received a communication from Pathway and a communication from the Nashville Farmers Market asking them to complete their application. We provided access to technical assistance for any language barriers or technical barriers or access to computer or internet. We had one request for technical assistance. That request was from a merchant who needed translation services. We attempted to provide that assistance, and they were able to get that assistance themselves and let us know that they no longer needed it. We had one other merchant reach out to say that they were unable to log back into their account. We met with them on Friday, showed them how to log into their account. They had created multiple usernames and passwords, and we requested a reset of their account on Friday. Their application has not been completed to date, and they have not attempted to log back into the system since we completed that process. So I do want to let you know that that's where we're at on the grant relief program. We had an opportunity to provide up to $500,000 in rent relief. We had applicants that quantified or qualified for about $200,000 of that fund. And any of those funds that are unused, again, will return back to Metro for redirection of funds once that grant account is closed. The final step in this process, our last 2 steps, is a confirmation communication that will be sent by Pathway Lending to each of the applicants, letting them know if they've been approved, what their award amount is, and confirming with them that their approved grant for rent relief will be sent directly to the Nashville Farmers Market from Pathway to be applied to their account by the end of this calendar year, so by the end of December. And we have communicated that that is the process to our merchant community. We've done so in all of these resources we mentioned prior to, including our ongoing weekly 411 communication. The last step for us will be the financial and accounting step on our end to book these funds into each one of those approved merchant accounts. And Maria will be required to go through that process prior to the close of the December books so that those funds are applied to this calendar year. I do wish that we had more significant participation in the funds than we have. Most of our market house merchants did apply, but not 100%. And we had very limited participation in the farm shed. We will be putting together a recap report. Priscilla and I have discussed that the board could send out a letter potentially in December once this is finalized, recapping the impact of this grant and any other communications that you'd like to share. So we'll be providing you with the statistics and the information on the impact of this grant once it closes. And that would conclude our CARES Act grant update.
Okay, Tasha, I do have a question for maybe those that didn't apply. Are any of those behind on their rent?
Right.
No.
I haven't, I mean, I don't think so. I haven't
Okay.
seen all the applications yet, but I believe
Okay.
everyone who has past due has applied.
Okay, thank you. We will move forward with the 2021 Farm Shed and Artisan Residency applications and the rates.
So Heather's going to give you an update on the process, but we are not recommending a rate increase this year to the farm shed merchants. Typically, we bring forward a revised rate card this time of year if we are seeking to increase the rates in any of the farm shed rental programs. And just due to COVID and the state of the economy, we are not pursuing a rate increase for the farm shed for the 2021 season. And I'll just hand it over to Heather to kind of just, I mean, we're essentially announcing that we're accepting applications.
Yeah, so our application opened on FarmSpread on December 11th. We will be accepting priority placements through January 15th, and then have those placements announced by the end of that month. We are looking to close the application for peak season on March 5th, so we can announce all of our peak season merchants by April. So if you know anyone that wants to apply, farmspread.com.
So all of this is live on our website, in our communications. You know, this is a standard timeline that we've used where we prioritize renewals for existing merchants and then also begin accepting priority placements for multi-day merchants. This helps us get a good indication as to the occupancy levels of the farm sheds and be able to project what our revenues are going to be. Right now, our season for 2020 concludes in January, and our new season picks up in February. So we'll be keeping you up to date. It's hard to use any year-over-year comparisons right now, but we'll do our best to keep you up to date in our monthly meetings. We do have a few Artisan residency applications that have been submitted to us for review. We are working through assessing those applications. We have 2 individuals interested in a 90-day trial for our CART program. And we have 2 businesses, I'm sorry, both of those are businesses, not individuals. And we have 2 businesses that are interested in the Artisan Residency program that Downtown Kendall is presently participating in. And so we are continuing to meet with them to assess their business. Should they qualify for that residency program, we'll offer them a 90-day trial. And if during that 90-day trial, they demonstrate their ability to adhere to our policies, pay their rent on time, market their business, and be a good fit to complement the offerings already available, then we'll offer them an extension of that temporary lease for either the CART or the Artisan Residency kiosk. And so we are looking to backfill those positions in December and January, with December being an assessment month and January being a month where their businesses would begin operations. And let's, while I'm talking about that, before we move forward to Freshbooks or what's good, we've also been going through the process of assessing and evaluating applications for leasable multi-year tenant space inside the market house. We have 1 space available. It's about 1,300 square feet of leasable space. It's been vacant since the end of May, and we have been evaluating applications as they come in. It is the largest space we have available at the market, and it is an expensive space to lease, so we've been really thoughtful about how we evaluate the applicants as they come in. And we are focused primarily on finding a retail applicant for that space rather than a restaurant, because it is not presently plumbed or have any kind of existing kitchen equipment in that space, including a lack of exhaust for that space. We do have 2 retail applicants that would like to present their concepts to the board in January, and we intend to bring those 2 and any others that may come in between now and the end of this month that we're able to qualify to the board in January for your review. And that would conclude that section of the agenda.
Thank you, Tasha. That's great. Do you have the update for the Freshbooks and what's good report?
This is Heather. I'll be giving both of those reports.
Thank you.
Freshbooks actually continues to have record-breaking token disbursements every month. It was about 1,450 in October. It was about 1,100 last month. Both are actually triple the amount that was dispersed the same months the year before. So that's encouraging. It adds about $5,000 extra dollars to the farm sheds, in addition to that $60,000 from the voucher program. So it's adding funding when people need it, which is exciting. So for what's good, I've included a full presentation in the deck that Maria sent out yesterday. It has a lot of graphics that show the specifics about what I'm about to talk about, but in case you're not at your computer, I'm just going to summarize what you can see in that presentation. We've been using What's Good as a platform for online marketplace for about 6 months now. In that time, we've had an overall upward trend in both total sales per month and average order total by week. From what I can tell, repeat customers to the platform tend to have higher order totals. On weeks when we push promoted social media posts for the platform, we can see an increase in the number of orders, but the average order total trends lower. This seems to show that the promoted posts are helpful in attracting new customers. In the past 6 months, we've been able to focus on improvements to the customer experience on our end. Simple additions like a dedicated Google Voice line have made communications with customers about their orders easier. Structuring systems for receiving orders, organizing and bagging orders, alerting customers that their orders are ready, and delivering them curbside have made the entire process smoother on our end. In the near future, we'll be adding an order tablet and dedicated cold storage, as well as hiring an intern to improve the pickup process, and ideally at some point add more days that customers can pick up orders. While we've been able to add some notable vendors in the past few months, like Plano Produce, Ladies of the Lamb, and Rally House Farms, we're always looking to increase our produce and meat vendor participation specifically. We're actively recruiting Smoke and Oaks, Virgin Bay, Happy Madison, and more right now. In general, we believe the more vendors that we have with products on the app, the more attractive it will be as an alternative to the shopping in the physical market. Produce and meat vendors are of particular interest for recruitment just because we found that 90% of all orders have included a produce item on the app for us, while 50% have included a meat item. Meat items have been about 40% of all sales for us, and produce is closer to 30%. That's just because the price per item is so much lower. In general, the positive trends are encouraging for a startup program. The regular customers, and there are a few that order almost every week, really like the option and convenience. Plus, for total sales since its inception, we've added $10,000 for our vendors and sales. So it's an important time for us to be able to help increase sales any way we can for our vendors. Does anyone have any questions?
Can I ask a question or two just about the intern position?
Yeah.
Is that a paid internship?
Yeah, it will be. It'll be funded by money that we got from the Friends of Nashville Farmers Market to help also in distributing Freshbooks tokens.
And how about, give me some idea. So would this be a full-time internship or part-time, a few hours a week?
It would be very part-time, likely only Saturday and Sunday, and probably just Saturday to begin.
Okay, I'm just asking because I occasionally run across young people who are looking for something to do that's farm food related. So, okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely be making an announcement once we open the application for interns. So we will let you know.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Anyone else? All right, well, if you want to look more into the specifics on the numbers, like I said, there's a bunch of graphics and data in that presentation about what's good, and that is all for those program updates.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, that was great. And we will move forward to the 2021 board meeting calendar.
Yes, I just want to confirm with the board, I believe you have each communicated back to me at this point that you want to maintain meetings on the third Tuesday of every month at 9:30 a.m. I know that that was a change that you made for another board member who had to resign their position, but I do believe this time appears to work best for everyone on the board at this time. And so if there's not a change to that calendar, we will publish the 2021 meeting dates as we normally do. We publish them to the clerk, and then we publish them to our merchant community as well. And so we'll move forward with doing that this month, unless there is an objection by the board.
No, that it works fine with me. Brenda, Angela, does it still work okay with both of you?
Fine with me.
Okay.
And
Great.
Angela has already confirmed with me previously that it works for her as well.
Okay, great. Okay, well then there will be no changes there. Do you still need an approval with that since we had already done that previously?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that's great. We will move forward with your report, the executive director's report.
We've talked about a lot of the things that I was going to share with you, specifically the mid-year budget review that I think, Maria did a great job of recapping. I do want to begin to prepare you that the budget season for FY22 will kick off at the end of this month and the beginning of January. It is going to be a very challenging budget season for Metro, and it will be a very challenging budget season for the Nashville Farmers Market. So we need to be prepared with analysis and ready to make difficult decisions should our recommendation or request for subsidy funding get denied. So we will be preparing multiple scenarios for your review prior to us submitting our budgetary request. The budget that Maria is putting together presently is based on flat revenues year over year next year, simply because we need to take a very conservative approach as this pandemic continues, and not project revenue growth in a time period when we're seeing where our merchants are still struggling to pay and we might lose a few. So with that said, we are also working on any kind of additional cost reduction scenarios beyond what we have already done. As a reminder, we are on a half of a shoestring budget. So we've gone from shoestring to what I would say a half or a tethered string. It is very slim, and there aren't a lot of additional opportunities to reduce our operating expenses without significantly impacting our services, our operating hours, or our staffing levels, which again are already at a bare bones level. So just be preparing for those discussions to occur at the January and February board meetings. Priscilla and I will be moving forward with an annual request to meet with the administration regarding our budget. Last year, we were not scheduled to meet with the administration for our budget at any time, nor were we scheduled to have a budget hearing. And we will be requesting to meet with the administration during the budget season so that we can gain a better understanding and agreement on a path forward that is supportive of the sustainability of the organization. And then finally, we are working with Dustin and others in the finance department to move forward with recruitment processes for our marketing coordinator position and our office coordinator position. We have been holding those positions as in agreement with the hiring freeze, but also in a manner to be able to hold our expenses. We are going through the process now of getting those positions released so that we can post them and begin recruitment and the application review and interview process at the top of 2021. We will be prioritizing the application and review and hiring process for the marketing coordinator position first, with the desire to onboard both of those positions at the same time. We will continue to hold the other position, the small business coordinator position, as a cost savings measure through the end of the fiscal year. And that position does have a higher salary than the other two positions. And so it does make a greater impact to hold that one financially. We are working with the Nashville Business Incubation Center on a marketing support program that provides additional assistance to any of our merchants that applied for their CARES funding small business support program. We had 4 merchants apply for those services. And we have a meeting set up with NBIC, those 4 merchants, and 3 marketing consultants on Thursday. Those 4 merchants will benefit not only from small business training and technical support, but also, again, marketing, consultancy, and services provided on their behalf to help their businesses pivot and survive the pandemic. Those 4 businesses include BNC Market Barbecue, Succulent Vegan Tacos, Bubble Love, and Heart of Nashville. They are the only 4 businesses that applied, and all 4 of them were approved to participate in this program. So we're excited to kick that off with them and help them with additional marketing support. We've also met with A&M Marketplace to review their marketing strategy and discuss some of their operational concerns as they opened up their international market in the midst of a pandemic. We are encouraging them to execute the concept as it was presented to the board. They have made several requests to pivot their concept into more of a restaurant service concept, which we have not approved to move forward with. The board approved for that to be an international market with local and regional sourcing, and we have encouraged and required that that is the concept that is executed at this time. And we've helped the ownership group develop a marketing plan that they have begun to implement this week to help promote their business and build up traffic to their business. Outside of that, our staff continues to operate with limited on-premises hours. So that doesn't mean that we're not there. Each of us spends time there every week. And we have office hours and in-person services that we provide on premises to help our merchant community and support our programs. But we are continuing to keep our office closed to the public. We are hosting meetings with merchants via Zoom or Google. And we are making ourselves presently available on Saturdays and also throughout the week with walkthrough visits throughout the property. So we are maintaining accessibility while also trying to provide a remote working opportunity for our staff in response to the surge in COVID cases in Nashville. And finally, the last thing I will add is that we do have the formal resignation of 2 board members. We are submitting, we're going through the process now of verifying our nominations for board members to the mayor's office. We have a call tomorrow afternoon with one of our nominated candidates to ensure that they have the time commitment available, and then the administration will then choose to either evaluate our 2 recommendations or solicit other individuals to join our board. Hopefully we'll have those 2 positions filled by February. And that's all I've got for wrap up. I don't know if anyone else has anything else on the team. Charles is here. We're just letting him be really quiet today because he is very busy doing procurement and taking care of our facility. He's doing a great job.
Thank you, Charles.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Did anyone else have anything to add? Anyone from the staff or the board? Okay, if not, I just would like to say thank you to the staff and to the board members during the loss of my father. Thank you for the calls and the text messages and the kind words. It means more than you know. And with that, we can adjourn this meeting.
And happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Everyone be safe. Thank you.
Thinking of you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.